The Man Thinketh by James Allen. This is by far one of my all-time favorite books. Literally is. According to me, it's one of the greatest books ever written on the power of thought. It's very dense, it's very concise. It was published back in 1903, but it's one of the earliest work in the modern self-help movement. James Allen was a British philosopher and was a pioneer in the modern self-help movement. A lot of great books like Think and Grow Rich, The Science of Getting Rich, all Nightingale's work have all come as a result of this book in many ways. So I highly recommend this book. This is a book that should be on your shelf, it should be in your phone, it should be in your library, and of course it should be everywhere so that you can literally read it every month. So we're gonna cover a lot of great ideas from this book. Yes, around 8 great ideas, and let's jump right into it. First of all, the effect of thought on character. Alright, I'm gonna read out a quote from the book. James Allen says, "A man is literally what he thinks, his character being a complete sum of all his thoughts." So what he's saying is, your character is a result of your thoughts. That's it. There's nothing else to character. The character being a complete sum of all your thoughts. We are what we think. Our character is a result of what we think. We ourselves have become everything in our lives because of our thoughts, because of our thinking. Another great quote by James Allen from the book As a Man Thinketh. Man is made or unmade by himself. In the armory of thought, he forges the weapons by which he destroys himself. He also fashions the tools with which he builds for himself heavenly mansions of joy and strength and peace. So let's understand this quote. James Allen says every single moment we are being made or unmade by ourselves only. Either we are building these weapons that are destroying us, or we are fashioning the tools which are building heavenly mansions of joy, strength and peace for ourselves. We are making ourselves, or we are breaking ourselves every single moment with our thoughts. There is no middle ground here. Either we are making ourselves or breaking ourselves. Another great quote by James Allen from the book As a Man Thinketh. Man is the master of thought, the molder of character, and the maker and shaper of condition, environment, and destiny. Let's understand this quote. James Allen says, "We mold our own character. Man is the master of the thought and molder of character. We mold our own character. Remember, nobody else is responsible for it. You are not a victim of something else. Your character is not a result of someone else's effects on you. We are molding our own character and make our own conditions. We are not at the mercy of the circumstances. As Bill Gates rightly said, you might be born poor. That is okay. But if you die poor, now that is your fault." Here's another great quote by James Allen from the book As a Man Thinketh. Man contains within himself that transforming and regenerative agency by which he makes himself what he wills. Let's understand this quote. James Allen wants to convey here is that we can make ourselves what we will, what we want ourselves to be. We can make ourselves what we want. We have that transforming and regenerative agency within us that allows us to make ourselves and even break ourselves. Depends totally on our thoughts. So, we are literally the ones who design our character, who are building our character. We are molding our character. The next big idea is the effect of thoughts on circumstances. So here's what James Allen says. He says, man is buffeted by circumstances so long as he believes himself to be the creature of outside conditions. But when he realizes that he is a creative power and that he may command the hidden soil and seeds of his being out of which circumstances grow, he then becomes the rightful master of himself. Now, to understand this quote, let's break this sentence down. Every sentence in this book is so good. I have probably highlighted the whole book at some point or other as I read the book, but this sentence, the early part of the sentence that says, man is buffeted by circumstances so long as he believes himself to be the creature of outside conditions. So, as long as you believe that we are the result of outside conditions, we are gonna be buffeted by circumstances. The circumstances will continue to shake us. The circumstances will continue to move us in whatever directions they will us. Right? If we continue to believe that the outside conditions are creating us or the outside conditions are changing us, the circumstances will continue to buffet us. However, when he realizes that he is a creative power, that's the key, and that he may command the hidden soil and seeds of his being out of which circumstances grow, he then becomes the rightful master of himself. Only when we realize that I am the power, that I am the commander, I command the hidden soil and seeds of my own being, and that's what leads to circumstances. My thoughts, my creative power leads to circumstances. That's when we become the master rather than being buffeted by the circumstances, by being buffeted by the winds, by being buffeted by the waves of the ocean in some ways. When we realize we are the creative power, we realize we command the hidden soil within. That's when we become the rightful master of ourselves. Another great quote by James Allen from the book As a Man Thinketh. Circumstances grow out of thought. A man cannot directly choose his circumstances, but he can choose his thoughts and so indirectly yet surely shape his circumstances. Wow. A man cannot directly choose his circumstances, but he can choose his thoughts and so indirectly yet surely shape his circumstances. So let's understand this quote. James Allen wants to convey here is that we cannot choose our circumstances directly, but because we can choose our thoughts, because we can fashion our thoughts, because we can change our thoughts, we can shape our circumstances too. We can define our circumstances, we can surely change our circumstances. Circumstances do not make a man, they reveal him to himself. A lot of times we believe that our circumstances are what are causing us all the problems, the grief and the challenges, and all that stuff. But the truth, as James Allen says, is that circumstances do not make a man, they reveal him to himself. Circumstances are revealing us to ourselves. We look at our circumstances and we think, this is what I have been given. But we need to instead understand is when we look at circumstances, we have to realize, this is what I have made for myself. Because circumstances reveal us to ourselves. Here's another powerful quote. As the master of our thoughts, we are the author and shaper of our environment. As the master of our thoughts, we are the author and shaper of our environment. James Allen conveys here is that we are shaping this environment every single moment. We are writing this, we are authoring this environment, we are creating this environment around us every single moment as the master of our own thoughts. Now he says, men are anxious to improve their circumstances, but are unwilling to improve themselves. They therefore remain bound. Yeah, that is what most people do. They are very anxious to improve everything around them, their environment, their circumstances, but they are unwilling to improve themselves. They are unwilling to change themselves. They are unwilling to go on this journey of trying to become a better version of themselves, and hence they remain bound. They keep pining for better circumstances. They keep hoping that somehow circumstances will change. But inside they do not want to change. They don't want to improve, and hence they remain bound. My dear friends, I want you to know our circumstances will not improve unless we decide to improve. Again, the very powerful statement here. Man is the causer, though nearly always is unconsciously, of his circumstances, and that whilst aiming at a good end, he is continually frustrating its accomplishment by encouraging thoughts and desires which cannot possibly harmonize with that end. Such a key distinction here is. Let's understand this quote. James Allen is saying here, even though we might aim for something, even though we might have a goal for something good, we are continually sabotaging our accomplishment. We are continually frustrating ourselves by having thoughts and desires which do not harmonize with that end goal. Remember, if we have end goal in mind but our thoughts and desires do not harmonize with that end goal, we are constantly going to sabotage our whole effort. So we have to realize this. We can't just have a good goal and hope that it will somehow be accomplished. We have to continually have thoughts and desires which are harmonized with that end goal, and only then can we accomplish that goal. And also realize, man is the causer of his circumstances. Man is causer of his circumstances unconsciously. We are creating our circumstances unconsciously. Again, the very powerful statement here. Whilst aiming at a good end, he is continually frustrating its accomplishment by encouraging thoughts and desires which cannot possibly harmonize with that end. It is absolutely a bad idea to have a good goal but then have thoughts that do not harmonize with that end goal. That is crucial to understand. Right. So another thing he says, a particular train of thoughts persisted in, be it good or bad, cannot fail to produce its results on the character and circumstances. So a really simple statement, let's understand this. Our train of thought, no matter what they are, they will lead to changes in our character and in our circumstances. See, every single moment they are doing that. So no matter whether the train of thought is good or bad, if we are persistent, that train of thought, we will see changes in our character and our circumstances. So that's the idea of circumstances, of the power of thoughts and circumstances. Now, let's move on to the next idea, which is on sacrifices. Here's what Allen says. He says, the man who does not shrink from self-crucifixion can never fail to accomplish the object upon which his heart is set. Let's understand this quote. If we are willing to give it our all, if we are willing to die for the cause, that's when we will accomplish the object of our desire. He is saying, if you are willing to die for it, there is no way you will not get the object of your desire. There is no way you will not accomplish. So you have to be willing to die for it. You have to be willing to give it your all in order to accomplish your goal, in order to be able to get what you desire. Now, let's move on to the next idea. Even the man whose sole object is to acquire wealth must be prepared to make great personal sacrifices before he can accomplish his object. Notice the selection of words here. Great personal sacrifices. Unfortunately, a lot of world today has been taken over by the 4-hour work week mindset. In the sense, I will just do a rare minimum work and somehow I'll get great results. This is not how the world works. You have to put in a lot of sacrifice before you can accomplish your desires, before you can accomplish the object of your desire. So we must be prepared to make great personal sacrifices. The book 4-Hour Work Week talks about the idea of building a business where you only work 4 hours a week for the rest of your life. But that's a very dangerous notion. I highly recommend you stay away from the idea of thinking that we just need to work 4 hours a week. In order to do something great, you'll need to make great personal sacrifices. And that is the fundamental law of this universe in some ways. And then Alan says, there can be no progress, no achievement without sacrifice, and the man's worldly success will be in the measure that he sacrifices his confused animal thoughts and fixes his mind on the development of his plans and the strengthening of his resolution and self-reliance. And the higher he lifts his thoughts, the more manly, upright, and righteous he becomes. The greater will be his success and the more blessed and enduring will be his achievements. So, what James Allen is saying is, success is proportional to the extent to which you can fix your mind on your purpose. So, success is proportional to the extent to which you are able to think about the same thing, think about that big goal, that purpose you have, and just fix your mind on that thing. There's literally though no achievement without sacrifice. Success is literally proportional to the sacrificing of all those base desires, those animal instincts and all those things, examples of which could be watching TV, spending time on internet, eating junk foods, and thousands of other things that we are unfortunately allowing ourselves to subjective all those base desires. So, success is proportional to sacrificing of animal thoughts. So, there are two beings. We have to sacrifice our animal thoughts and instead we have to fix our mind on our purpose. Those two are crucial in order to accomplish great results. And then he goes on to say, he who would accomplish little must sacrifice little. He who would achieve much must sacrifice much. He who would attain highly must sacrifice greatly. So there's no real gray area here. It's very black and white. If you are going to accomplish little, well, you need to sacrifice a little bit. But if you want to accomplish greatly, you must sacrifice greatly. Your accomplishments are going to be proportional of your sacrifices. How much are you willing to sacrifice? Again, I want to be very clear on this because a lot of times people are somehow deluded into this notion that somehow success will be easy, that somehow they can build easy business where they can make money and all those things. But show me any great achievement of entrepreneurship of any kind where the person made no sacrifices at all and still was able to accomplish greatly. Who are we talking about? Are we talking about Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, Michael Phelps, Michael Jordan? Who are we going to talk about? Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos? Are you going to say any of these guys have made very little efforts, very little sacrifices? No, they have sacrificed greatly. Michael Phelps in his biography talks about the fact that for 5 years during his practice, he actually took only 3 days off in all those 5 years. That's how much he sacrificed. Bill Gates worked tirelessly for almost 10 years. He said he never took a single day break for almost 10 years. Elon Musk works 100 hours a week. Warren Buffett has been working tirelessly on his business for last 50 years or even more. So anyone who says that it's possible to accomplish a great result with very little effort, or it's possible to accomplish a lot of great things in life with very little effort, is seriously mistaken. Remember, accomplishments are proportional to your sacrifices. Every great story is a story of sacrifice. Every great story is a story of lot of great sacrifices in some ways. Yeah, it is possible to live a sort of balanced life and decide not to make sacrifices in different areas. But remember, if you want to accomplish great things, great results, you must sacrifice greatly. It is the law of the universe. Now let's talk about another great idea, which is purpose. The power of thoughts in purpose. Here's what Alan says. Until thought is linked with purpose, there is no intelligent accomplishment. Here, Alan stresses on thoughts should be linked with purpose in order to have accomplishment, in order to have great accomplishment, in order to have an intelligent accomplishment. Alright. Until thought is linked with purpose, there is no intelligent accomplishment. So, thoughts are literally being multiplied in some ways by purpose. If you have no purpose, the thoughts are literally useless. There will be no accomplishment. So, you have to have a great purpose, then you have to mix your thoughts with them. Then you will have great accomplishment. Next, Alan says, aimlessness is a vice, and such drifting must not continue for him who would steer clear of catastrophe and destruction. This is no crucial. Aimlessness is a vice. And aimlessness should not be taken lightly. Don't take aimlessness lightly, because if you do not have an aim in any area of your life, you will see that you are drifting. And look at the words Alan selected here. He says, and such drifting must not continue for him who would steer clear catastrophe and destruction. He's saying here, if you continue to drift, if you continue to be aimless, it will lead to catastrophe and destruction. So the words are pretty stern here. And in the book Outwitting the Devil Within, Napoleon Hill too talks about the same idea, that drifting is the biggest reason why the devil gets you. Drifting, not having a purpose, being aimless is the biggest reason why we succumb to the devil within. So realize, aimlessness is a vice. It will lead to catastrophe and destruction. Okay, the next thing he says, those who have no central purpose fall prey to everything petty. So realize, we have to have a central purpose, otherwise we will fall prey all the time. Have a central purpose, and that's when you will avoid falling prey to everything petty, everything small. And here's the next powerful quote by Alan. A man should conceive of a legitimate purpose in his heart and set out to accomplish it. He should make this purpose a centralizing point of his thoughts. Yeah, so let's understand this quote. We have to make our purpose the point of our thoughts. We have to make the purpose central theme of our thoughts. And that's when we will set out to accomplish it. That's when we will be able to accomplish it. We must constantly be reminded of this purpose. We must constantly think of this purpose, almost like it's a never-ending thing. As Napoleon Hill talks about in the book Think and Grow Rich, that we can never stop thinking about our purpose. We can never stop thinking about our goal. We can never stop thinking about our desire. It is something that is a price we must pay. We must constantly keep on thinking about that thought, constantly reaffirming the thought, constantly retelling ourselves that thing again and again and again and again in order to accomplish our goal. And then he goes on to say, even if he fails again and again to accomplish his purpose, as he necessarily must until weakness is overcome, the strength of character gained will be the measure of his true success, and this will form a new starting point for future power and triumph. Let's understand this quote. He says, we will fail in our pursuits. He says, as he necessarily must until weakness is overcome. So, we will fail. as until we overcome all our weakness. That's part of pursuit. That's part of our endurance in some ways. But as a result of this failure, we will gain strength of character, and that's the true measure of success. Because using that strength of character, we can go after bigger dreams, bigger purpose, bigger goals. And then he says, to begin to think with purpose is to enter ranks of those strong ones, who make all the conditions serve them, who only recognize failure as one of the pathways to attainment. Wow, this is such a powerful statement. He says, to begin to think with purpose is to enter ranks of those strong ones. Just if you begin to think with purpose, now suddenly you are one with those who are the strong ones. You are in the same ranks as the strong ones. To begin to think with purpose, to believe that you have a purpose and to go with it is to enter the ranks of strong ones. And what do the strong ones do? They make the conditions serve them. The conditions are going to serve you, that's the key. To realize you will make the conditions serve you rather than be a victim of conditions, rather than being a mercy of those conditions. Not only that, strong ones who only recognize failure as one of the pathways to attainment. Note these words. Failure is the pathway to attainment. Now, again, the whole book, Obstacle in the Way, by Ryan Holiday, is dedicated to this idea that failure is the pathway to achievement. Obstacle is the way forward in some ways. So realize we must have a purpose. The purpose is what puts us in the same rank as the strong ones. And not only that, we as strong ones can make the conditions serve us. What a powerful statement. The next thing he says, thoughts allied to purpose become a creative force. Remember, initially early on he said, until thought is linked with purpose, there is no intelligent accomplishment. Then he says, thoughts allied to purpose become a creative force. So we have to consistently realize that only when we have a purpose will we become a creative force. We need a purpose in order to become a force in this world. And then Alan goes on to say, the soul attracts that which it secretly harbors, that which it loves and also that which it fears. It reaches the height of its cherished aspirations. It falls to the level of its unchastened desires. And circumstances are the means by which the soul receives its own. So Alan wants to say here is that we attract what we are secretly harboring, whether we love it or hate it. Whatever it is that we secretly desire, whatever it is that we secretly think about, and we harbor, that's what we are gonna continue to attract and bring it to our lives. Circumstances that are true in our life today are a reflection of what we are thinking about all the time. So we cannot be blaming the circumstances because the circumstances are a result of our own thoughts. So realize that we are constantly making our circumstances in some ways. We are attracting what we are secretly harboring, whether we love it or hate it. Alright, the next great idea from the book is on dreams and visions. Here's what Alan says. He says, the greatest achievement was at first and for a time a dream. The oak sleeps in the acorn, the bird waits in the egg, and in the highest vision of the soul a waking angel stirs. Dreams are the seedlings of realities. Wow! It all starts with a dream. The greatest achievement starts with a dream. Nobody ever accomplished great things without any dreams. If you read any biographies of any of the great people of the times, you will always see that it all started with a dream. Nobody was given a silver spoon and said, hey, you here, go, you can accomplish this. You don't need a dream. You don't need to dream. You don't need a purpose. You don't need a vision, and you will figure out the way. That's not the way it works. You have to have a dream. You have to have a vision. You have to have a purpose. As Ellen says, the oak sleeps in the acorn, the bird waits in the egg, and in the highest vision of the soul, a waking angel stirs. Dreams are what make our realities. Dreams are the seedlings of realities. So, if we are not dreaming big enough, we cannot create a reality that is big enough. Your ideal is the prophecy of what you shall at last unveil. Whatever ideal you hold in your mind, that is the prophecy in some ways. You are living that prophecy. That prophecy will come true and it will unveil itself at last. So, the ideal that you are holding is crucial. Then, Alan goes on to say, your circumstances may be uncongenial, but they shall not long remain. So, if you but perceive an ideal and strive to reach it, you cannot travel within and stand still without. If you strive for an ideal, your circumstances will change. That's the key. If you strive for that ideal, your circumstances will evolve. So crucial, so beautiful, what he's saying here. Okay, the next thing he says, whatever your present environment may be, you will fall, remain, or rise with your thoughts, your vision, your ideal. Your thoughts, vision, and your ideal are what will change your circumstances. They will change your environment. So, realize whatever it may be. You will rise, and with your thoughts, your vision, your ideal. Okay, the next thing he says, and you, too, youthful reader, will realize the vision, not the idle wish of your heart, be it base or beautiful or a mixture of both. For you will always gravitate forward that which you secretly most love. Now, this is a very loaded statement, because the key here is in the parenthesis. He says, not the idle wish. He says, and you too will realize the vision of your heart, not the idle wish. That's the key here. You will realize the vision, not the idle wish. So, a lot of people, a lot of times complain, hey, I have this goal, I have this wish, but it's not coming true. You must know that it's not coming true because it's not the vision, it's not the ideal, it's not the dream. It's not that you think about all the time. It's just an idle wish. Idle wishes are not supposed to come true. What comes true is a burning purpose, a burning desire. That's what Napoleon Hill talks about in his book Think and Grow Rich. So, you have to understand it will come true only when you have something that you truly desire and think about all the time. When you are focusing your thoughts on your purpose, that's when it will come true. Not just because you have an idle wish. Everyone has an idle wish, but those things don't come true. What really comes true is something with purpose, something what you are truly giving your best for in some ways. You are thinking about all the time. You will become as small as your controlling desires, as great as your dominant aspirations. So, as small as your basis controlling desire, your animal instincts, but as great as your dominant aspirations. And the key word here is dominant, because there are a lot of people who have a lot of aspirations, but dominant aspirations is what's going to make or break you. That's the one that's going to make truly who you are, not all the different idle wishes or aspirations you have, but the dominant aspirations. So whatever your dominant aspiration is, that's how great you will become. So realize you have the opportunity today to change your dominant aspirations, change how you think about, what you think about all the time, to change the aspirations that are in your mind all the time, and then you become that person. Again, the key word is dominant aspiration here. The thoughtless, the ignorant, and the indolent, seeing only the apparent effects of things and not the things themselves, talk of luck, fortune, and chance. So who are the people who are talking of luck, fortune, and chance? The thoughtless, the ignorant, and indolent. People who don't understand the laws of nature. People who are rather lazy, they are the ones who are thinking about luck, fortune, and chance. Others, the brave ones, the ones who believe in the power of thought, are going and make it happen. The next thing he says, in all the human affairs, there are efforts and there are results. And the strength of efforts is the measure of the result. Chance is not. Strength of effort is measure of result. Earlier, we talked about the idea that how our sacrifices are a measure of result, and sacrifices are directly proportional to the efforts we are putting in. So the strength of effort is the measure of the result. Another thing Alan says, the vision that you glorify in your mind, the ideal that you enthrone in your heart, this you will build your life by, this you will become. Let's understand this quote. Alan wants to say here is that the vision in your mind, the ideal in your heart, the vision, the pictures you are painting in your mind, the visualization in your mind all the time, the vision that you glorify in your mind, the vision that you think about the most, that's what you will become. And not only that, the ideal that you are enthroning in your heart, the ideal that you have in your heart, this is what you will become. There's a famous saying, don't just set goals, cast a vision of what you want your life to become, because that's what it will become. It's not just about the goal, it's about the vision that you are glorifying in your mind every single moment, and the ideal that you are enthroning in your heart every single moment. Alright, moving on to the next great idea from the book As a Man Thinketh. It is on who we are. And here's what Alan says. He says, men do not attract that which they want, but that which they are. Men do not attract that which they want, but that which they are. This is almost like a summary of the whole book right here. What Alan is saying is that we are not attracting just what we want, but who we are becoming in this process. Our thoughts are changing. Characters are changing. Our thoughts are changing circumstances. Our thoughts are directing us. Our thoughts are making who we are. That, as a result, allows us to attract whatever we have become. So we move on to the next big idea, thought factor in achievement. Here's what James Allen says. He says, all that a man achieves and all that he fails to achieve is the direct result of his own thoughts. So there's no mention of circumstances here. There's no mention of outside variables or conditions or anything like that. All that a man achieves and all that he fails to achieve is the direct result of his own thoughts. So this is a very sobering reminder that our thoughts are the core reason for our own achievement. Our thoughts are the core reason for everything that is coming true in our life. And then Alan goes on to say, as he thinks, so he is. As he continues to think, so he remains. Let's understand this quote. As he continues to think, so he remains. So it's not only the fact that our own thoughts are creating our achievement, but also we continue to think the same thoughts, we will continue to remain in the same position. So we have to consistently challenge our own thoughts to think bigger and bigger and bigger in order to accomplish bigger and bigger achievements, to accomplish bigger and bigger goals. Really important, our achievements are a direct result of our own thoughts and nothing more than that. We are not the victims of our circumstances. We are not the victims of conditions. We are the victims of our own thoughts. Either we are the victims of our own thoughts or we are directing our own thoughts in order to accomplish our greatest goals. So let's move on to the next big idea, the garden and the seeds. Alright, so here's what Alan says. He says, man's mind may be likened to a garden which may be intelligently cultivated or allowed to run wild. But whether cultivated or neglected, it must and will bring forth. If no useful seeds are put into it, then an abundance of useless weed seeds will fall therein and will continue to produce their kind. Realize, our mind is like a garden and it's our job to properly plant seeds of thoughts into it, properly plant the right seeds of thought into it, because if we don't do that, the weed will continue to grow. And here's what Alan says. If no useful seeds are put into it, then an abundance of weed seeds will fall therein. Now, these are very crucial words. He is saying if we do not plant that garden with proper seeds, if we do not plant the garden with any seeds, then that we should have done, then an abundance of useless weed seeds will fall therein and will continue to produce their kind. So if no useful seeds are being put into it, if no useful seeds are planted into the garden, if no proper thoughts are being planted in your mind, then an abundance of useless thoughts will fall therein and will produce their kind. So if we are not being deliberate, if we are not very intentional of our thoughts, about our aims, about our vision, then we will continue to have just random weed of thoughts, and those thoughts will produce their kind. So very, very powerful lesson here. Then Allen goes on to say, as the plant springs from and could not be without the seed, so every act of man springs from the hidden seeds of thought and could not have appeared without them. This applies equally to those acts called spontaneous and unpremeditated as to those which are deliberately executed. So every act. James Allen says every act is a result of our own hidden seeds of thought. So whether we think of this action as spontaneous or unpremeditated or deliberate, it is a result of our own thoughts. Realize that. Next thing he says, thoughts are exactly like seeds. Good thoughts and actions can never produce bad results. Bad thoughts and actions can never produce good results. This is but saying that nothing can come from corn but corn, nothing from nettles but nettles. Men understand this law in the natural world and work with it, but few understand it in the mental and moral worlds, though its operation there is just a simple and undeviating, and they therefore do not cooperate with it. Again, thoughts are just like seeds. If you plant corn seeds, you will not produce apple. It will only produce corn. So whatever thoughts we are constantly planting in our mind, that's the result we are getting. Our job is to constantly nurture, to constantly be careful of what thoughts we are planting into our minds, because results will be coming. And the funny thing is that when we all use this idea in the natural world all the time, we all must realize corn will not produce apple, apple will not produce grape. This is not the law of the nature, but we somehow find it hard to understand it within ourselves. Our thoughts are exactly like seeds, and whatever thoughts we are planting into your mind, the results are coming as a result of it. So, then Allen goes on to say, let a man radically alter his thoughts, and he will be astonished at rapid transformation it will affect in the material conditions of his life. Men imagine the thoughts can be kept secret, but it cannot. It rapidly crystallizes into habit, and habit solidifies into circumstances. Okay, what he's saying here is, your thoughts will lead to habit, and habit will lead to circumstances. So it's not that the circumstances are just randomly appearing in your life. Your thoughts are creating the habits, and the habits are creating the circumstances in your life. You're not the victim of your circumstances. Instead, you are a victim of your own thoughts. Or maybe, if you have great thoughts, then you are creating the life of your dreams as a result of your own thoughts. So always realize, your thoughts will create your habits, which will create your circumstances. Men imagine the thought can be kept secret, but it cannot. It rapidly crystallizes into habit, and habit solidifies into circumstances. So there we have it, a quick look at As a Man Thinketh by James Allen.